The great hall of the alien empire was filled with light and gold. Tall pillars touched the sky and crystals shone like captured stars. The court was silent except for the soft sound of the 5 alien princesses laughing. Their voices were sharp like silver bells, but their words carried poison. They stood in armor and crowns, their beauty unmatched, their power feared across the galaxy. They laughed because the king had spoken a strange command. He had summoned a human from Earth, a weak and forgotten planet. The princess in red armor spoke first. Her name was Valera, the eldest, and her voice was proud. "Father, you cannot be serious. A human from that small blue world? They are fragile. They are nothing. Why waste our time?" The others joined her. The one in silver called humans soft. The one in gold called them unworthy. The one in blue said they were slow. The one in green said they were simple creatures with no true strength. Their laughter filled the palace, echoing against the high walls. Even the soldiers near the gates smiled at their cruel words. To them, Earth was a world of weakness not worthy of the Empire's attention, but the king did not smile. He was a tall figure with silver eyes and a crown that glowed with ancient light. His voice was deep, and when he spoke, the hall fell silent. "You mock Earth," he said. "You laugh at humans, but you forget something. What you see as weakness may be their hidden strength, and today you will see why I have chosen one of them." A great door opened, and the guards stepped aside. From the shadows, a single human walked forward. He was not dressed in armor. He carried no weapons. He wore simple clothes, the kind any worker from Earth might wear. His eyes were steady, but he looked small in the vastness of the hall. The princesses looked at him and laughed again, this time louder. "This is the one?" Valera asked. "This is the human you bring before us?" The human did not answer. He stood still, his face calm, though inside his heart raced. He could feel their eyes on him. He could feel their hate. But he said nothing. The king raised his hand and silence returned. "Yes, this is the one," he said. "And before this court, before the Empire, I will declare his fate. He is not here as a slave. He is not here as a joke. He is here because destiny demands it." The court gasped. Soldiers shifted in place. Advisors whispered to one another. The princesses frowned. The king's words carried weight, but no one understood them. What destiny could tie a human to the royal bloodline? The king's gaze turned to his daughters. "You may laugh now. You may call him weak. But remember this, even the smallest flame can burn the darkest night. The Empire has ruled for centuries, yet its blood grows thin. Only through new strength can it survive. That strength lies not in pride, not in cruelty, but in something you cannot see." The princess in gold raised her voice. "Father, you cannot mean what I think you mean. You would place us beside this creature? You would join the blood of the Empire with Earth?" The king did not answer her. He looked at the human, and his voice grew heavier. "You have been chosen," he said. "Not by me alone, but by the will of destiny itself. Your path is tied to my daughters. Together you will shape the future of this empire." The hall was silent. The words hung in the air like a storm. The princesses stared at the human in shock. Their laughter was gone. Their pride was shaken. None of them had expected this. None of them wanted it. The human finally spoke, his voice steady though quiet. "I do not understand. I am only one man. Why would your empire place such a burden on me?" The king's eyes did not leave him. "Because you are human. And humans carry something my people have forgotten. You will see. They will see. In time, all will see." The human felt the weight of every gaze in the room. He was surrounded by power, by beauty, by danger. Yet he did not step back. He stood firm, though he was only one against many. Deep inside, he felt a strange fire rising in him. He did not know where it came from. He did not know why it was there. But it burned quietly, and it gave him strength. The princess in blue whispered to her sisters, "He will not last a day." The princess in green smirked, "I will break him myself." The princess in silver crossed her arms. "Let him try to stand. He will fall like all the rest." But the king only said, "No, he will not fall. He will rise. And when he rises, you will not laugh." The guards stepped forward, ready to lead the human deeper into the palace. The princesses turned away, their faces proud, but their eyes filled with doubt. For the first time, they were not sure of their laughter. The human walked forward, his steps echoing on the golden floor. He did not know what trials waited for him. He did not know what destiny the king had spoken of. But as the doors closed behind him, he felt the silence of the court. It was no longer the sound of mockery. It was the sound of fear. And somewhere in the shadows, destiny waited. The human was led deeper into the palace by two guards in silver armor. Their faces were cold and their steps heavy on the golden floor. The great doors of the throne room closed behind him with a thunderous sound, sealing away the mocking laughter of the princesses. Ahead of him stretched long halls carved from crystal and stone, glowing with light as if the palace itself breathed. He walked slowly, unsure of his place in this alien world. His name was Kale, a name that meant little to the Empire but everything to him. Back on Earth he had been no warrior, no leader, no man of power. He was an ordinary soul, a survivor of a world forgotten by the galaxy, yet here he was, standing in the center of a story far larger than his life. The guards did not speak to him, but Kale could feel their silent judgment. To them he was fragile flesh, weak bones, and a short life. He wondered if the princesses were right to laugh. What could he, a man of Earth, give to this place of shining crowns and endless power? The hall ended at a wide chamber filled with firelight. The air smelled of strange incense, sharp and sweet. 5 thrones lined the walls, smaller than the king's but carved from pure crystal. On them sat the princesses, their armor shining in the glow. They were waiting for him, their eyes sharp as blades. Valera, the eldest in red, leaned forward with a smirk. So this is the human who has stolen my father's mind. Her sister in silver, Serenia, tilted her head. No armor, no weapon. He is naked before us. Leora, dressed in gold, laughed softly. Perhaps father means to amuse us with a pet. The one in blue, Ilara, crossed her arms. A pet cannot be bound to destiny. And finally Celine in green whispered, unless destiny is weaker than we thought. Their words cut like knives, but Kale did not speak. He stood still before them, his eyes steady. He felt their beauty press against him like fire, but also their contempt. Then the great doors behind him opened once more, and the king entered. His steps echoed and the chamber fell silent. He looked at his daughters, then at Kale. You see a man who is small. You see weakness, the king said. But you will see more if you open your eyes. He is not here to fight you. He is here to endure you. The princesses shifted uneasily. Valera spoke again, her voice sharp. Father, you cannot mean to tie our lives to his. The Empire will not accept it. The nobles already whisper. The king's gaze turned to her. The Empire will accept what destiny commands. You may resist, but destiny does not bend. Each of you will test him. Each of you will see if he is truly unworthy. If he fails, he fails. If he endures, then his place is sealed. The words struck like thunder. The princesses looked at one another, their pride rising. If this was a challenge, they would make it cruel. They would break him before he could rise. Valera rose from her throne, her red cloak flowing behind her. She stepped down, her eyes glowing like fire. She stopped before Kale, towering over him in her armor. Then let us begin, she said. If he is to stand before us, he will first stand before me. The chamber grew tense. The guards leaned closer. Even the flames seemed to grow still. Kale looked up at her, and for the first time he spoke with clear voice. Then I will stand, he said. Valera's lips curved into a smile sharp as a blade. We will see. The first trial was declared. In the arena beneath the palace where warriors trained and blood had been spilled for centuries, Kale was to face Valera's chosen test. The court gathered, nobles filling the high seats, soldiers lining the walls. The 5 princesses stood together, their crowns shining, their eyes set on the human who walked into the circle of stone. The arena was vast, its floor cracked with age, its walls echoing with memory. Above, the sky of the Empire stretched wide and endless, filled with stars that Kale had never known. Valera entered the circle, her red armor gleaming. She carried no sword, but her strength was legend. She had broken warriors twice Kale's size with her bare hands. She raised her arm and the crowd cheered. Stand against me, human, she said. Show us what Earth has given you. Kale looked around at the faces staring down at him, at the soldiers waiting for his fall, at the sisters who whispered of his weakness. He felt the weight of their eyes, their judgment, their laughter still echoing in his mind. He had no weapon. He had no training. He had nothing but his body and his will. But he stepped forward, his hands steady at his sides. I will not fall, he said. The trial began. Valera moved with speed, her strikes heavy as iron. Kyle staggered, his body breaking under her blows. The crowd laughed, the sisters smiled. Yet each time he fell, he stood again. Each time he bled, he kept walking forward. His strength was not in the power of his body, but in the refusal to surrender, and with each step, with each rise from the ground, the laughter grew less certain. The smiles began to fade. Even Valera's eyes grew sharper, for she had never seen such endurance. By the end of the trial, Kyle was broken, his body bruised and bloodied, but he still stood. He did not win. He could not win, but he had not fallen. The arena was silent. For the first time, the 5 princesses looked at him without laughter. For the first time, they felt something colder than mockery. They felt doubt. The king's voice rang out, "This is only the beginning." And the court knew it was true. The trial with Valera left Kyle wounded. His arms were bruised, his chest burned with pain, and his breath came heavy. Yet even with his body broken, he still stood. That image, fragile flesh refusing to kneel, did not leave the minds of those who had watched. The whispers of the court spread quickly. Some called him foolish, others called him stubborn. A few in secret began to call him something else, unyielding. But the king's command was not for one trial. He had spoken clearly. Kale would face each of his daughters, and each would test him in her own way. The next to step forward was Serenia, the Silver Princess. Her eyes were sharp, her mind sharper still. Unlike Valera, she did not believe in strength of body alone. She believed in wit, in cunning, in breaking an enemy without lifting a hand. She stood in the center of the hall, her silver cloak trailing behind her, and said, "Strength means nothing if the mind is weak. A true ruler must see through lies, solve riddles, and face choices that shatter the soul. Let us see if a human mind can carry such weight." Kel was brought into a chamber of mirrors. Each wall reflected endless paths, endless doors, endless shadows. The ceiling glowed with pale light, and the air was cold. Serena's voice echoed all around him, though he could not see her. "Find your way out," she said. "But know this. Every step you take will bring pain. Every wrong turn will punish you. And if you fail, you will wander until madness takes you." Kale moved slowly. The mirrors tricked his eyes, showing doors that were not real, paths that led back to where he started. When he touched the wrong wall, lightning surged through him, burning his skin. His cries echoed in the chamber, but he pressed forward. He remembered Earth, the streets he had walked, the hardships he had endured. Hunger, cold, the endless fight for survival. These had been his life. Pain was not new to him. Pain was his oldest companion. Hours passed, or perhaps days. The mirrors mocked him with his own reflection. Broken, tired, weak. Yet in the deepest part of the maze, Kale closed his eyes. He did not trust the mirrors. He trusted the beating of his heart, the breath in his chest, the steps of his feet, and with that he found the door that led out. When he emerged, blood trickled down his arms, burns scarred his skin, but his eyes were steady. Serenia looked at him in silence. For the first time, the Silver Princess did not speak with mockery. She spoke with respect. "You are still standing," she said softly. "Perhaps there is more to humans than weakness." The court stirred with unease. 2 trials had not broken him. 2 trials had left him wounded but alive. Next came Leora, the Golden Princess, whose pride was heavier than her crown. She stepped forward in a hall lit by fire and said, "Strength and wit mean nothing if loyalty cannot be proven. Many rise, many shine, but most betray when tested. I will know if this human carries honor in his heart." Her test was not of pain or riddles. It was of choice. Kale was brought before 2 cages of light. In one, a soldier of the Empire knelt, bound and silent. In the other, a child from Earth cried out in fear. Leora's voice rang in the hall. "Save one and the other dies. Choose, human. Save your kind and you betray the Empire. Save the Empire and you betray your kind. There is no right answer, only the truth of your heart." Kyle looked at the cages, his breath heavy. His people had been forgotten by the stars, left in shadows, mocked by alien races. The child's cries struck deep into his soul. Yet he looked also at the soldier, proud even in chains, silent even in fear. The court leaned forward, eager to see him break. Kale closed his eyes. "I cannot choose who lives and who dies," he said. "But I can choose to fight so both may live." The princess frowned. "You cannot break the law of my trial." But Kyle stepped forward, his hands on the cages. His flesh burned, his body shook as the light tore into him. He did not stop. He pushed with all his strength, his will screaming louder than his pain. And in a flash, both cages shattered. The child was free. The soldier was free. Kyle fell to his knees, his skin smoking, his breath gone. But he had chosen not to choose. He had made a third path where none existed. The hall was silent. Leora looked at him, her golden eyes wide. For the first time, her pride faltered. "You broke my trial," she whispered. "No one has ever done that," Cale did not answer. He lay on the ground, his chest rising and falling. His body broken once again, but he was alive. And in the shadows of the hall, Ilara and Selene, the last two sisters, watched him with eyes no longer filled with laughter. For the first time, they wondered if the human was not the joke they believed him to be. For the first time, they felt something else stir inside them. Not mockery, not pride, but fear. The turning point, Cale's body was broken again. His skin was burned, his arms trembled, and his steps were unsteady. Yet when the guards tried to lift him, he pushed them away. He walked by himself, each step slow but steady, as the court watched in silence. The mockery that once filled the halls was gone. What replaced it was unease. 3 princesses had tested him. 3 had tried to break him. But the human had endured each trial. He was no warrior, no genius, no king. Yet he had shown something none of them expected. Now only 2 sisters remained. Ilara, the blue princess, stepped forward. She was colder than her sisters, her eyes like frozen seas. She did not care for strength, wit, or loyalty. Her power was the heart, the spirit, the will to face fear itself. She looked at Cale with no smile, no laughter, only stillness. "You have faced pain. You have faced choice. Now you will face what no human can withstand. You will face your own fear." The chamber grew dark. The flames dimmed. Shadows stretched across the floor. Ilara raised her hand and the air turned heavy. From the darkness rose visions, phantoms made from Cale's own memories. He saw Earth as it had been, hungry streets, broken homes, skies filled with ash. He saw faces he had lost, friends and family taken by hunger and war. He saw himself alone, powerless, forgotten by all. The shadows whispered, "You are nothing. You will always be nothing." Cale dropped to his knees, his breath sharp. His heart raced. The visions clawed at him, tearing open every wound of his soul. He wanted to close his eyes, to surrender, to escape. But he remembered the king's words. "What you see as weakness may be your strength." He stood, though his legs shook. He faced the shadows and whispered, "Yes, I am weak. Yes, I have nothing. But even with nothing, I am still here. And I will not break." The shadows screamed, then shattered like glass. The chamber filled with light once more. Ilara stared at him, her frozen eyes wide with something she had never felt before. She did not speak. She lowered her gaze, and for the first time she bowed her head. The court gasped. One more princess had been silenced, but one remained. Selene, the green princess, stepped forward. She was the quietest of the sisters, the one who whispered instead of shouted, who watched when others mocked. Her trial was unlike the others. She led Cale into the gardens beyond the palace. There, under skies filled with alien stars, trees glowed with emerald light and rivers ran with silver water. The air was calm, the wind soft. It was the first place in the empire that did not feel like a cage. Selene spoke, her voice soft as the leaves. "My sisters tested your strength, your mind, your loyalty, your heart. But I will test something deeper. Can you carry the weight of another's soul?" Kyle frowned. "I do not understand." Selene pointed to the river. Its waters shimmered, showing not his reflection but hers. Then the vision changed. It showed her fears, her loneliness, her doubts. She was the youngest, the one always in the shadow of her sisters, the one who had never felt truly seen. "Step into the river," she said. "If you can bear what I bear, you will pass. If not, it will drown you." Kyle looked at the water. He was already broken, his body weak. To take another's pain seemed impossible. Yet he stepped into the river without hesitation. The water wrapped around him like fire and ice at once. He gasped as visions filled his mind. Not his own, but hers. He felt her fear of being forgotten, her struggle to prove herself, her quiet cries when none were watching. It was heavier than any chain, sharper than any blade. But he did not turn away. He held her pain as if it were his own, and in that moment he understood her. Truly understood her. The river released him and he fell onto the shore, gasping. Selene knelt beside him. Her eyes filled not with mockery but with tears. "You carried it," she whispered. "No one has ever carried it," Cale could not answer. He was too weak, too broken. But his silence was enough. Selene stood and faced the court. "This human is not what we thought," she said. "He is not weak. He is stronger than any of us." The court erupted with whispers, fear, and anger. Nobles shouted that this was madness. Soldiers asked if the empire had fallen so low. But the king raised his hand and all went silent. He stood, his crown glowing, his voice heavy with truth. "Now you see, I did not choose him for his body. I did not choose him for his power. I chose him because he carries what we have forgotten. He carries endurance. He carries compassion. He carries the will to face fear and still stand. These are the things our bloodline has lost. These are the things only humans still carry." The words struck the court like thunder. The princesses stood in silence, each broken in their own way. Their laughter was gone, their pride shaken. And in the center of it all stood Kale, beaten, scarred, but unbroken. The king's voice grew stronger. "You mocked Earth, you laughed at humans. But this man has shown you the truth. He is not here by chance. He is here by destiny, and his blood will bind with yours to carry this empire into the future." The hall fell silent. The weight of his words was too great to deny. The 5 princesses looked at Kale no longer with contempt, but with something else. Not hatred, not mockery, but fate. The shocking destiny. The trials had ended, but the echoes of them still haunted the palace. Nobles whispered behind closed doors. Soldiers spoke in hushed voices. The people of the empire wondered what it meant that a human, one they had mocked, stood unbroken where others had fallen. Kale rested in a chamber lit by soft fire. His body carried the marks of every test, bruises, burns, cuts, and scars that would never fade. Yet when he looked into the mirror of polished stone, he did not see defeat. He saw something he had never seen in himself before. He saw strength. The door opened and the 5 princesses entered together. They no longer laughed at him. They no longer mocked. Their steps were slow, their faces thoughtful, their eyes filled with something he could not yet name. Valera, the eldest in red, spoke first. Her voice no longer cut like a blade but carried weight. "You stood against me when even warriors of our bloodline have broken. You bled, but you did not kneel. I cannot deny what I saw." Serenia, the silver one, added softly. "You solved the maze of mirrors. You endured its pain. You did what none of my own kind could. I cannot call you weak." Leora in gold stepped closer. "You refused to betray either side. You chose the impossible and broke my trial. That choice, it still shakes me." Ilara in blue kept her arms folded, but her words were colder, slower. "You faced fear itself. You stood where others would have run. Even I cannot deny you." And Celine, the youngest in green, looked at him with eyes wet from tears. "You carried my pain. You saw me as no one ever has. For that I cannot forget you." Kale listened to their words in silence. He had expected anger, hatred, more trials. But what he saw in them now was something different. Respect. And beyond respect, something heavier. The chamber door opened again, and the king entered, his crown glowing like a star. He looked at his daughters, then at Kale. His voice carried through the walls like thunder. "You have seen him endure. You have seen him stand. Now you must understand why I chose him." The king raised his hand and the chamber grew dark. The walls shone with light, revealing visions from the empire's past. Generations of rulers, each more powerful than the last, yet each more hollow. He showed battles won, planets conquered, but also a secret none in the court had known. "The empire is dying," the king said. "Our blood has thinned. Our children are fewer. Our strength fades with each passing year. The stars that once feared us no longer tremble at our name. If nothing is done, the empire will crumble, and my daughters will inherit a throne of dust." The princesses lowered their heads. They had heard whispers, but never the truth spoken so openly. The king pointed at Kale. "This man is not chance. He is destiny. His blood, his will, his spirit. These are the things our people have lost. Only by joining with him can our bloodline survive. Only through him can the empire live." The words fell like a storm. The princesses stared at Kale, their hearts torn between pride and fate. The court outside roared with disbelief, but none could deny the king's vision. Kale's voice was quiet but steady. "I am only a man. I did not ask for this. I do not even understand it. But if what you say is true, then why me?" The king's silver eyes burned with fire. "Because you are human. Because you are the only kind who can suffer without surrender, bleed without breaking, and love even when the world denies you. That is why." The princesses stood in silence, their faces pale. They had mocked Earth, they had laughed at humans. Now they faced the truth. The future of their empire was tied to the very thing they once despised. Balira turned her gaze on Kyle, her eyes sharp, but no longer filled with hate. If this is destiny, then we cannot deny it. But know this, human, we are not yours to command. You will have to earn every step, every bond, every moment. Kale met her eyes and nodded. Then I will earn it. I did not come here to be your master. I came here because I had no choice, but now, maybe this choice is mine too. The king looked at his daughters and said one final truth. You will laugh no more. You will mock no more. From this day, the Empire's bloodline will not be alien alone. It will be born from both, and the one you laughed at will become the father of your future. The silence that followed was heavier than any trial Kale had faced. The princesses did not answer. They could not. Their pride battled their duty. Their fear battled their fate. But deep inside, they knew the king's words were true. Kale stood, his body trembling but his spirit unbroken. He looked at each of them in turn and spoke. Then let it begin. And in that moment, the future of the Empire changed forever.